Good afternoon, this is Nick with Williams Sewer Line Inspectors performing a video inspection of 1321 Sonora Avenue in Glendale. Right now we're looking into the main city sewer. This is underneath the street in front of the house. As we pull back, you'll see the very first portions of piping, which is this house's responsibility for any maintenance or repair should they need to be done. At this time, while the joint is a little bit sloppy, it's not allowing any roots to come in through the system, which it typically would, and that would be acceptable. So at this point it's a little bit above its what's expected of its performance, and doesn't need any repair or anything like that. It is a little bit sloppy is all. This is an odd sort of a joint here. Not very typical, not anything to worry about. Another joint. This is a clay line. It is actually made out of a clay pipe which has been baked and turned into a glass form of the clay. It is called vitrified clay, which just means made into glass. And as we pull back, what we're looking for is a lot of roots coming in to the pipe to know when it needs to be maintained. We're looking for cracks and their severity in order to tell where any repairs may need to be done. Clay is a very long-lasting pipe, but it is prone to things like this, which is a little bit of an offset in the pipe. This is a much bigger offset than you typically want to see. But there hasn't been any water run in this pipe for at least a day, and what we're seeing is some water sitting in this joint, which means that water can't leak out of the system at this point. It's actually a sealed joint. A little pool of water like that, what we're looking at, is actually a good thing to see in a line where you see an offset. This is really what a joint should look like, just nicely lined up. We haven't seen anything up to this point which needs a repair. Nothing would really warrant digging for any of the problem for your sewer. A little bit of roots coming in here at the upper section of the pipe. Those should be cleaned out in perhaps about 6 months' time. It's good to see those there, though, because what that tells us is that this line hasn't been recently hydrojetted or cleaned, and what we're seeing is really what roots are able to get into the system, rather than the result of a cleaning done to the system, because those roots would definitely have been taken out if the line had been hydrojetted. So from at least this point forward, the line is doing very well with very, very, very little root intrusion. There's a little bit of a crack that's in a portion of the pipe which transitions from the 4-inch portions of the pipe, which is on property and up to the sidewalk, and then the 6-inch portion of the pipe, which is actually a wider pipe, and it goes underneath the city street and underneath the city sidewalk and planter area. This crack is really not in a situation at this time that it would require replacement because it's so close to a joint, but what we do see in it is we see some roots coming in through the crack itself, and what they do is they'll separate and widen a crack as they come in. Coming in through a joint is one thing, but coming in through a crack actually starts to widen up that crack, and what we have here is just, what is that, 92 feet, and 93, 94 feet, only 3 feet away, or 2 feet away, we have this section here, which is actually a larger crack in the pipe itself, and it's separating, allowing roots to come in, and starting to get to a position where it'll allow water to drain out of the system. While this is not a major issue at this moment, what happens is soil does begin to erode under this point. And as that soil erodes, a small hole will form, and this small section of pipe that's cracked all around it could fall into that small hole, just leaving a large hole in your sewer pipe. So this is something that I definitely recommend be fixed. It's 5 feet and 4 inches deep, just before the sidewalk, about center of your property. It's on your property, on the grass of your property, just before the sidewalk, about a foot or so from the sidewalk. So I think that if they're going to replace this portion, which I do recommend, they should go ahead and just move it an extra 2 feet forward if they can, and get that rather non-essential break also fixed at the same time. Just reconnect to the 6-inch from this point. Okay? Alright, so as we pull back, we'll see the rest of the pipe actually looks much better condition. There are small cracks in it like this. This is really non-essential in terms of repair. I wouldn't even recommend typically that this would be repaired unless you were already doing a larger repair and it was close enough to hit it at the same time. Really, with the little spot repair that this line requires, I wouldn't recommend that this particular point in pipe needs to be replaced at this time. It has no roots coming in through it. It's a very small crack. It's found inside the joint, which typically has some mortar and whatnot around it as well. It doesn't represent enough evidence to me to warrant giving a recommendation for replacement. Another one, same situation with this. This is a smaller crack located right in the joint. This is not something that is giving me enough information to say that I would suggest it be replaced. It's just a joint, some roots coming in it. Again, just an indication that the line hasn't been recently hydrojetted, which is actually good for us because it lets us know that very few roots are getting into this line. A small crack here as well, also located in the joint. It's in the same category as the other 4 that we've seen. I would say that earthquakes have caused this damage because the roots are very minimal in this line. It's possible that the soil compaction is not exactly right around this pipe and it's able to move a little bit when an earthquake hits the area. Little hairline crack here, nothing to worry about. And when you have very loose soil around a pipe, it will move a little bit and clay will crack rather than bend. It's not a flexible pipe at all. Another very small hairline crack in this joint. It's in the same category, actually even less important to fix than the other ones. It really is nothing that I would recommend fixing. So far, just that one spot should get fixed, and I put a spot of green paint on it. And I'll have it in my written report, its location and depth. And it's really only 2 feet from the 6-inch portion of the line where that other small crack is, so just from that spot that I marked all the way to the 6-inch line, which is just a couple of feet, not a big issue. Here we have another offset in the line. This is very common where pipes are put together a little bit sloppily, and they're making a turn. Instead of using a pipe fitting that would do that turn, they'll put the pipes together and just throw a little extra mortar around it to hold it all together. No roots coming in through this, which is indicating to me they probably did throw an awful lot of mortar around this connection. And that mortar is just like a concrete. It just hardens and it seals the pipe to some degree. Didn't say anything there that's a problem. That's a little root. Okay, a little bit of an offset here that's a little bit bigger than should be. It is holding some water at this time, which is indicating it's not leaking out of the system. Again, just not a big issue. Now here is where the pipe exits the building. This is right underneath the front planter area near the gable at the front of the house. This spot would be ideal for putting in a new cleanout, which would allow access to this line to clean out any roots in the future. I wouldn't recommend that it needs to be done at this time, but if you were to do that other repair, lumping this installation of a cleanout in with that repair will probably give you a bit of a discount off of doing it. The line probably doesn't need to be cleaned for another 6 to 10 months. Depending on use, when these lines start to get used more aggressively, the roots will also start to come in a bit more aggressively. So I would err on the getting it cleaned too often rather than too few. and just recommend that in 6 months' time that the cleaning is done. At that time, or before that time, you'll need to have a clean out put in at this location. It's marked with a green spot of paint. It's in the front planter area. It's about, I think it was 3 feet deep. Here we have cast iron. And cast iron is a really durable material. It doesn't crack or break under normal conditions. But what does happen with cast iron is it starts to rust over time. Typically, you'll get about 80 years of use with cast iron. When it's in contact with water for that much time, it will just have some rust flakes and very jagged edges we'll see at the bottom of the pipe heating out on the bottom. And what will happen is holes will begin to form in the line, which will allow roots to come in and will also allow water to seep out. So what we're looking for is we're looking for evidence of holes, which I don't see at this time. I don't see any roots coming in. I don't see any large sections of pipe missing. So really, I see nothing in this cast iron line which would warrant me to advise it to be replaced at this time. What you should know is that, let's get a measurement on it real quick. Longer than I had first remembered. Okay, so it starts at 54 feet, 54 and a half, 55, and then we'll pull back. See that pipe that we just looked at a couple of times. Okay, so this is what we have. We have 20 feet of cast iron. It's probably underground in the house. What I'm thinking is they put this new plastic everywhere where the old cast iron was visible, and then as the plastic or the sewer line went underneath the ground level and was no longer visible, they went ahead and left it as the cast iron. This is very typical. Plastic material is excellent. It will last typically about 200 years without any maintenance or trouble or hassle. This is where we entered the line today. The line is running up towards that gate, that roof, about the center of that roof. It runs straight out towards the street, right past that tree in the front yard. And right before the sidewalk, it has that one break in it. Findings and recommendations. Again, this is Nick with Williams Sewer Line Inspectors. Thank you very much, and have a great day.